West Wing also on edge right now about the midterms. Trump advisors don't want the GOP message to be, we lied, tax bill helps the rich. And unlike past elections, Democrats going on offense, they have candidates in virtually every district showing optimism about taking seats in even deep red areas. I'm joined now by a Democratic congressman from New York, Jeffries, as well as Cristina Beltran, associate professor at New York University. Congressman, your party is competing more widely. Is this a bluff in your view, or these seats are more competitive, and how does the tax debate figure in?
Well, this is going to be a very competitive election, and we're going to have an opportunity to compete all across the nation, the north, the south, the east, and the west. And this fraud of a tax bill and Donald Trump's willingness to expose it for what it is through his own words is just going to allow us to continue the narrative that Donald Trump and the Republicans continue to try to jam one raw deal after the next down the throats of the American people.
You think he really said that?
I absolutely think he said it, because it's obvious if you look at the four corners of the bill who it benefits. 80% of the benefits of this tax scam go to the wealthiest 1% of the country. That's just the reality. And
so when he goes around the country telling everybody, actually, this is good for the working class, is he lying to them? Does he think they're stupid? Does he think they won't figure this out?
Well, it's not clear to me, but what is clear is that the bill is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. In other words, we're going to shoulder our children and grandchildren with $1.5 trillion in additional debt simply to provide massive tax cuts to millionaires, billionaires, special interest corporations, and big donors to the Republican Party. And he's going to try and sell it as something that benefits everyday Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I think he says so many shocking things that occasionally we sort of forget that we now have a president who talks like a mob boss. You know, it's like basically this sort of, we're all going to get richer. You know, he's telling his friends, you know, you're all going to get a taste. And I think there's a kind of, I think what's interesting is that he wants to sell this as a middle-class tax cut. We know it's a corporate tax cut. It's a massive corporate tax cut. I think the fact that the last-minute insertion of a real estate deal that sort of helped bring Bob Corker on board, and it's going to give him probably $11 million, as you've discussed, I think that's going to be really key, because that's going to be able to galvanize voters. It's interesting that now people know Trump lies, but now there's a really very clear element of the tax bill that directly benefits the Trump family, and I think that is going to be something that Democrats can really mobilize on, because it's just so blatant.
I think you make such an important point, which is, who is he lying on? And when Trump lies on the press, I hear this because my job is to report the facts. The fact is, there's a lot of people who don't care or like it. And I've been out at Trump rallies. I met some of them. I'm always nice to them, but I've heard that. Him lying on the press and lying on the politicians is different than what you're outlining, which is him lying on the average American taxpayer, working class taxpayer. If you're watching at home and you don't make $1 million, you're probably going to lose out.
Yeah, and there's something about him that's so interesting, that he no longer uses public speech as the bully pulpit. It's verbal wish fulfillment, right? He talks to people. It makes him feel good to say what he says. It makes his base feel good to hear it. So it's like, it's political speech is opioid. It's like, it makes him feel good and it makes his base feel good. So he says these things. The problem is, he'll say one thing to the public in terms of my base will be, my affluent friends will be sad, but then later he'll say, oh, you know, I'm going to give you a taste. You're all going to do quite well.
You're saying his political rhetorical style is like an opioid, right? And that raises...
It makes him feel good, it makes them feel good.
Right, but that raises the Biggie Smalls question in 10 Crack Commandments. Is he getting high on his own supply? Does he actually believe what he's selling?
Right, right. And I think that's key. I think actually there's a way in which he is so engaged in a process of wish fulfillment that one wonders if he actually is believing. I think he's going to start believing it's a middle-class tax cut in the same way he isn't quite sure Obama is a citizen. I don't know what the line of... The delusional line here is very dangerous.
And the delusion is dangerous. Congressman, I believe you represent Biggie's neighborhood, but I won't make you comment on that unless you choose to. I will show you the president's Christmas Eve message. Obviously, he used that as a time to take a step back from all the politics and the media bashing, and let's put this up on the screen. Christmas Eve, he took it as a time to really unify. No, he didn't. He posted a photo, retweeted, of him, says winning, and you zoom in, he's got a media organization, actually happens to be one of our competitors, although I could care less, CNN, under his shoe. Congressman, a new low for a Christmas Eve message?
Well, first of all, Ari, I do appreciate you quoting Biggie Smalls, a.k.a. Frank White, from Life After Death. We much appreciate it back at home. But in terms of this message. One, what we've seen from a president who's got authoritarian tendencies is that he constantly goes after independent entities that critique the things that he's been doing. So he's done it with respect to the media, in this particular instance, in an egregious fashion. We've seen him do it by labeling individuals so-called judges who are part of the Article 3 fabric of our Constitution. He's doing it now as it relates to the FBI and the special prosecutor, individuals that can potentially hold him accountable for possible criminal behavior connected to the campaign. So this is just par for the course. And I've got to believe that the overwhelming majority of the American people, particularly those who are going to come out and vote in the midterm elections, are going to see through the madness.
And that's the big question. Professor, thank you for coming by the beat.
Thank you.
Congressman, always a pleasure. Appreciate it.